If you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Okay guys, it is Friday, April 12th, and it is 9:47 p.m. Yes, I do realize I'm getting a very late start today, and you can blame Sammy. But I'm not going to explain to you the story because he's around here and he's listening, and I don't want to embarrass him. So anyway, we don't have any Q posts for today, but we do have plenty of Q-related news, and that's what we're going to get into. I have had a very down day, not down as in depressed or whatever, but just could not get myself moving. So, and also I just decided to wear black tonight because I am officially in mourning for my youth. So let's get started here. And let's talk about that book that Julian Assange was holding. Remember the video from yesterday with Julian Assange, and the video had something, it may not be what it seems. And I actually do believe that it's not what it seems. And I did see some people in the comments comment that perhaps the reason why he was carried out is because if his foot touched UK soil, he could have been arrested there. I don't know about that, but to me, that kind of makes sense. And I'm going to go with that until we hear otherwise, because to me, that is the best explanation I've heard so far. Now, in terms of the book he was holding, it was a book by Gore Vidal, and we're going to take a look at that. And let me see here. And actually, some of you guys already knew that in the comments. You had put that below, so I appreciate that because it informs us all. You know, if I've missed something or couldn't find something and you guys know, it helps us all out if you put it in the comments below, because we're all looking for the same information. We're all looking for the truth, and so you know, I miss things. That's just the way it is. Do you remember that? I don't know why this just came to my head, and I know it's probably because it's late and I get more chatty and ridiculous when it's late, but do you remember that song, Short People? My friend that was visiting from out west and I were discussing that the other night at dinner. We thought, you know, they could never get away with a song like that today. You know, there was a line in there, short people have no reason to live, and they've got little baby legs that stand so low, you gotta pick them up just to say hello. It boggles my mind, because it offended me back then, because I'm a short person and so is my friend. You know, I'm about 5'4". Oh, okay, I'm 5'3". I'm 5'2 3/4". You people are relentless. The point is that you'd never get away with that today. You would never get away with that. And I don't know even how it made it on the radio way back then. Maybe I'm dating myself by talking about that song, and probably younger listeners have no idea what I'm talking about, but that's, you know, par for the course. Anyway, let's take a look at this. CJ Truth, and this is his Twitter account. It said, Julian Assange carrying a Gore Vidal book. Some interesting things on Gore Vidal below. And this is the man, and of course this is the picture that we remember, or we saw the video of him being brought out. He looked quite distraught, if you ask me, but his demeanor completely changed when he was in the van. And I believe, as I stated yesterday, that is because he was told exactly, probably once he got into the van, what was going to happen, and that's when we see the thumbs up and the power symbol. So and we also have pictures of him you know, doing a wink and smiling, so which is completely different than the demeanor he had when he was brought out. And perhaps his demeanor when he was being brought out was fear over his feet touching UK soil. I don't know. But it's interesting nonetheless, and he was definitely clutching a book, which again is odd. And it was, as it turns out, Gore Vidal's book called History of the National Security State. Now, Literary lion Gore Vidal questions McCain's war record. McCain, who started this rumor that he, McCain, was a war hero. Where does that come from, aside from himself? So this is just a little quote that Gore Vidal said on John McCain. And another quote from the book: traitors who prevail are patriots. Usurpers who succeed are divine emperors. And he also wrote a book called Julian, which is interesting. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger, because I'm going to have a hard time seeing this as well. But here we have the book, and it is definitely this book, Gore Vidal. I mean, it matches perfectly. And it's interesting that he did write a book called Julian. It was a historical novel. It was in the genre of a historical novel, and it was called Julian. It was not about Julian Assange, but it's still interesting nonetheless. And Julian became Caesar over the Western provinces by order of I don't know, I can't even pronounce that. And in his role, he campaigned successfully against the Alemanni and Franks. Most notable was his crushing victory over the Alemanni at the Battle of Strasbourg in 357. I don't know if this has anything to do with anything. It's interesting. It's interesting that he wrote a book called Julian. Let me see. My phone is vibrating, but they are going to have to wait, because you people are more important right now. And this is another quote from Vidal: "We are the United States of amnesia, which is encouraged by a media that has no desire to tell us the truth about anything, serving their corporate masters who have other plans to dominate us." Well, that is true. And he had a 2008 Vanity Fair article on the Patriot Act before his own death, illustrating how U.S. citizens would voluntarily surrender rights via the Patriot Act vis-a-vis a 9/11 style attack. Gore Vidal, prior to 9/11, exposed the why and how of Timothy McVeigh and the growing threat of more among the lands. And so he's an interesting man, and also Michelle Bachmann revealed that Gore Vidal made her a Republican. That's another interesting tidbit there. So it's interesting. Not really 100% sure why he was carrying that book, but there must have been it's probably many reasons and many pronged, because it just seems like in this whole thing, things never have just one meaning. There's 2 and 3 and 4 and layers of meaning. And Julian Assange is a very intelligent man, so I'm sure that he is communicating something to someone with that book. Now let's go back and take a look at this. Well, maybe not. All right, here we go. Okay, here's why the book Julian Assange was holding when he was arrested is vitally important. On Thursday, several men in black suits, surrounded by a dozen cops, raided the Ecuadorian embassy in London and kidnapped Julian Assange. I wouldn't exactly say they kidnapped him, but moments later, the Department of Justice released a statement charging Assange with computer hacking conspiracy for allegedly working with the U.S. Army soldier at the time, Chelsea Manning. Assange was in handcuffs when he was brought out, and as he was being dragged from the embassy, he managed to grab the book, Gore Vidal, History of the National Security State. As he was shoved into the van, Assange held the book facing forward so that it could be seen by the camera. And that is obvious to anybody that was exactly what he was doing. He wanted that book to be seen. And For those who may not know, Gore Vidal was an American author who has studied the actual history of the United States, not the propagandistic, chest-pumping horse manure taught in schools, but the very real, violent, and corrupt history of the United States government. Vidal was born inside the system, educated in expensive private schools in Washington, D.C., and grew up, quite literally, surrounded by the elite. His father was a high-ranking official in the Franklin Roosevelt administration, and his grandfather was U.S. Senator Thomas Pryor Gore, Democrat, Oklahoma. He was incredibly smart and would eventually become a best-selling author. In his 30s, after writing a series of mainstream novels, Vidal decided to try his hand at historical fiction. This decision would set him on a path to waking up to the atrocities carried out by the United States dating back to Abraham Lincoln. Vidal was one of the first public figures to question the motives and wisdoms of Lincoln, and he was lambasted for it. Despite bipartisan attacks on all fronts for his critical skepticism of the United States, Vidal's 6-volume American Chronicle series of historical novels about the United States became bestsellers. As the years went on, Vidal became outspoken about the rise of the military-industrial complex and predicted the very situation we find ourselves in today. USA belongs to a handful of men who also control the media. Look at General Electric. It produced nuclear weapons for the Pentagon and also owns the NBC News cable channel, which is very sophisticated censure apparatus intrinsic to the system. It's genius. It's like an electronic cage around the nation, which blocks information from getting through. Gore Vidal. In the book Assange was pictured holding, Vidal explained how the United States established massive military-industrial security complex and the political culture that gave us the imperial presidency. The book was written by Vidal and the Real News Network senior editor Paul Jay. In it, the two dissected the apparatus that would eventually facilitate Assange's arrest. Through propaganda and manipulation, the establishment has tricked the masses into accepting their corrupt order as the norm. Both Vidal and Assange knew this. It doesn't actually make any difference whether the president is Republican or Democrat. The genius of the American ruling class is that it has been able to make the people think that they have had something to do with the electing of presidents for 200 years when they've had absolutely nothing to say about the candidates or the policies or the way the country is run. Gore Vidal. In the book, Vidal explains the false history of the U.S. and how the false history is used to manipulate people into supporting mass murder and corruption. I think everybody should take a sober look at the world around us. Remember that practically everything you're told about other countries is untrue. What we're told about ourselves and our great strength and how much we are loved, forget it, wrote Vidal. Our strength is there, but it's the kind of strength that blows off your hand while you hold up the grenade. It's a suicidal strength as well as a murderous one. Although Vidal died before realizing the plight of Julian Assange, the attack on the freedom of the press that it represents, he saw it coming decades in advance. The DOJ says part of what Assange did to justify his prosecution, beyond allegedly helping Manning get the documents, is he encouraged Manning to get more documents for him to publish. Journalists do this with sources constantly. It's the criminalization of journalism, and I could not agree more. Sadly, not many people heeded Vidal's words, and we are witnessing a full-scale attack on true independent journalism as we know it, and we are seemingly powerless to stop it. This is likely the reason Julian Assange grabbed that book and made sure we saw it as he yelled out through dozens of cops that we must resist. Though Vidal has become somewhat cynical in his final years, his wisdom can help to free us from our self-imposed slavery of worshiping corruption and statism. Julian Assange is a hero. His actions help to expose horrifying crimes carried out by the U.S. government, including mowing down innocent journalists with a .50 caliber. His persecution by the UK and the US is retaliation and punishment for exposing these crimes, and their actions, as Assange said, must be resisted. And their actions, as Assange said, must be resisted. And I may have a link to that actual video, and it does show them. Of course, it's a very grainy video because it's, you know, I don't know how the Army does that. But it's like a black and white image, and you can definitely tell they are being killed. And then tanks come in, it rolls over a body. They have a wounded person on the ground that is, there's no weapon seen, but they continue to shoot at that person. A van comes to take out the wounded, and they take out that van too, which has 2 children in it. And the children are not taken to a military hospital where they would get the best of care, but they are taken to an Iraqi hospital. Not sure of the outcome or what happened to those 2 children. But anyway, Julian Assange was the one that exposed that to not just the American people, but to the world. And people were not very happy about that, but they were definitely mowing down journalists. Now, maybe these journalists were embedded with fighters. I don't know, but it was quite clear you could see that they had cameras, not weapons. If this established a behemoth of media, government, and tech giants are allowed to persist and snub out the independent press, as they are currently doing, we may soon realize George Orwell's prediction of a boot stomping on a human face forever. Like Vidal, Assange wanted people to know true history, as this is the path to peace. If wars can be started by lies, Assange so eloquently noted, they can be stopped with the truth. We must resist. And this, you assist an evil system most effectively by obeying its orders and decrees. An evil system never deserves such allegiance. Allegiance to it means partaking of the evil. A good person will resist an evil system with his or her whole soul. And that was from Gandhi. Now, you know, I'm sure you've heard this saying many times, all it takes for evil to prevail is for good men and women to do nothing. Well, Julian Assange was not such a man. I personally think he is a hero. I know others disagree with that, but hopefully we can agree to disagree. I think people that are in military families and so forth probably feel quite differently, but there have been atrocities, perpetrated by Americans. There's been atrocities perpetrated by Canadians as well, a lot. But a lot of times these men and women in the military are simply obeying the orders of their command. They're not evil people. They're there to serve their country. They went there. Their hearts are to serve their country, to do good. So I do not blame the soldiers per se, and because that's the soldiers are not the ones making the decisions most of the time. It's coming up, because they were waiting for a command. Do we engage? Do we engage? Yes, engage. And then they shot. So, anyway, let's go on from there. We may agree to disagree on that, and that's fine. If we all feel exactly the same, I've said this many times, if we both thought exactly the same on everything, one of us isn't necessary. So it's okay that we have a difference in opinion on some things, and it's even healthy because we can engage, hopefully, in civil conversation about it and come to an understanding of each other's side. So anyway, let's move on. Now, this by Viking Scott, who I believe, I know, listens to this channel because I have seen his comments. So he says, and this is from his Twitter page, Have you guys ever thought if POTUS releases his taxes, every liberal nutcase will attack companies POTUS does business with and every investor he invests with? It would cause innocent people harm because of Trump derangement syndrome. I had not thought of that, so that is why I included this. But I think he makes a very valid point, and I think that that is a realistic scenario of what would unfold, because when they found out the main companies that Trump did business with, I think there would be backlash for those companies, and those companies are innocent. They're doing business with a businessman. So yeah, I agree with his point of view on that. Not something I had personally thought of. And this from Educating Liberals. Sorry, I keep looking beyond you to above my china cabinet, where there is a very black kitten with many, many toes perched, probably thinking, what can I break next? But I love him. All right, moving along. Okay, Educating Liberals. Democrats in New York blocked a bill that would expand college aid for children of deceased and disabled veterans. But a week ago, they approved a budget allowing $27 million for college aid for illegal immigrants. Are you kidding me? That's not the word that he used, but the Democrats are communists who hate America. Can you imagine turning down a bill that would give college aid to the children of deceased or disabled veterans? Now, if they're deceased, they can no longer provide for their children, right? So that child is at a disadvantage when wanting to go to college. If they are disabled, they are also at a disadvantage because, disabled veterans are not, it's not like they're rolling in dough here. So this would have been something, these are children that deserve to go to college. They're children of veterans that served our country. But instead, we're going to take the bread right out of the children's mouth and we're going to give it to illegals, criminals. Yes, they are criminals. If you cross the border illegally, you are a criminal. That's right. And I can say that because I was an immigrant. I am an immigrant. So I did it legally. And so that's a very touchy subject with me because I went through a lot with immigration and I did everything legally and continue to do everything legally. But people just walk across the border and they're given everything. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And you know what? If they said to me, well, no, you are a green card holder, you are, not yet a citizen, which I do want to be desperately. But if they said, well, no, we wouldn't help you go to college, but because that money belongs to Americans who want to go to college, and, we're going to help out the children of veterans and so forth. You know what? I would understand that. I'd be like, well, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Americans first. It makes sense. All right, let's go on. Now, this is something extremely interesting, and I know you're going to find this interesting. Okay, now I got this from Aliana, and on her Twitter page, it says, this plane. Repost from 8chan Q Research. So she's telling us that she got this from the 8chan Q Research Board. United States Air Force plane flying towards the UK with call sign, get this, Move Q45. Move Q45. Are you kidding? Move Q45? 45 equals POTUS, obviously. We know who Q is. And she says, let's go. So I think that's very interesting. And I think, or at least I thought I had a picture of the actual, I don't know what I did with it. Where did it go? I had a picture of the actual flight somewhere. Here it is. I put some stuff in between it. I shouldn't have done that, but I did. So here it is, a little plane flying across, and you know, it definitely has the call sign Move Q 45 18400, and it is a military plane. What do you think of that? I think it's quite fascinating. And I think there's probably more to that as well. Don't know. Because it's just, it's odd. Move Q. Are they moving Q? Is Assange part of Q? I don't know. But move Q to 45, bring Q to POTUS? I don't know. But, you know, we don't know who. We know that, obviously, we know that Trump is on the Q team. It is a team of people. It's not just one person. But interesting nonetheless. Don't you think? I think. Now, all right, so let's come down here. And I like this. I'm not going to belabor this too much, but I do want to mention it because I think it's interesting. Tucker Carlson said Assange's real sin was preventing Hillary Clinton from becoming president. That's interesting. And I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that either. If you watched a lot of coverage of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange's arrest on television Thursday, you likely came away with the understanding that he is some kind of Russian spy who is in trouble because he stole classified documents from the US government. That is not true. It's factually incorrect, and saying so is not a defense of Assange. We are not here to promote him or excuse any number of things he said over the years that we disagree with quite a lot. But just so it's clear, whatever his sins, Assange did not steal documents from the United States government. He did not hack the DNC servers. He didn't break into John Podesta's Gmail account. There is no proof that he is working for the Russian government or has ever worked for the Russian government. Assange has never been charged with any of that and wasn't on Thursday, no matter what they tell you. Okay, here is Sammy, and he's probably just right off camera there, and he is attempting to chew through, come on, get down, the microphone wire, but now he's just content to chew the table. Oy. If you're upset about the theft of classified documents from the U.S. government, and there is reason to be, we certainly know who did that. A 22-year-old Army private named Bradley Manning, now called Chelsea Manning. In 2013, Manning pleaded guilty to stealing secret material and got 35 years in prison for it. Shortly after that, President Obama commuted Manning's sentence. This allowed Manning to leave jail decades early, go back on television as a commentator, and then run for political office. So if your real concern is America's national security, you have someone to be angry at, Barack Obama. And yet, strangely, nobody is. I'm going to have a little kitty intervention here. So I'm not sure if you can see. No, you can't. Hang on one moment, okay? Time for kitty intervention. Come on, get down. There we go. I apologize. I have a cat that, I don't know, I do love him. But he's wearing me down, man. He's wearing me down. Stay away from that one. Sammy. And the way, I can't just pick him up and show you because, well, if he comes over here, maybe I can, because he's heavy and I have a back injury. So it's very difficult for me to lift him up to where I am to show you. But I do promise you, because many people keep asking, well, I'd like to see the cats. So I do promise to take some video of them and show it to you at some point soon. All right, let's go on because you don't want to hear about my cats. All right. Let's take a look at this. Bless you. All right. Donald Trump. I don't need to know anymore. We're done. Absolutely done. He Mueller tried the case. There's no collusion. No matter what we do or give to the radical left, it will never be enough. And that no truer words have ever been spoken, because it doesn't matter what Donald Trump does at this point. It doesn't matter if he gives them their, his tax returns. It doesn't matter if he, gives them his school records. It doesn't matter what he gives them. It's not going to satisfy them. It's just not. So anyway, and then this WikiLeaks video exposing the deep state's ability to literally slaughter real journalists and journalism itself is one of the primary reasons Assange will be extradited to the US. Now, this is the video that I was telling you about, okay? And I am going to warn you that it's disturbing, okay? It's very, very disturbing. So if you are really sensitive to this, now if this was not so grainy and black and white, I don't know, like it bothered me to see this even so. But I think that for the sake of the truth, I think we need to show this.
In April 2010, WikiLeaks released this cockpit video from an Apache gunship in Baghdad in 2007. The gunship is firing from a distance of over a mile from its victims. This is the war you don't see.
Clearly, there were two cameramen there holding cameras, not armed.
These are two cameramen. This guy does not have a weapon. This is a cameraman.
These cameramen turned out to be Reuters news reporters.
Haven't seen anything since then. Just bugging. Once you get on, just open up. I see you a little bit. You got about 4 Humvees out along this. You're clear. You right, firing? What's the baseline? Let me know when you have it. We'll shoot. Light them all up. Come on, fire.
These are journalists, mind you.
Keep shooting. We need to move time now. Alright, we just engaged all 8 individuals.
A whole street covered with bodies. The reaction to that was nice.
Yeah, look at those dead bastards. Nice.
Yeah, that's their reaction. Look at those dead bastards. Nice. Those were Reuters journalists. This is what Assange released. It exposed the deep state's ability to literally slaughter real journalists and journalism itself. And it's one of the primary reasons Assange will be extradited to the US. So, and you can find this video because I know you're seeing it secondhand, and it's not as easy to see and discern. I have seen the entire video. It is extremely disturbing to me. And I would assume it would be to you as well. So just a warning there. Anyway, it wasn't that you hear a lot of things about Assange, but most of them are false. So just be careful who you listen to, as always. And don't take my word for it either. You should, if you disagree, go out and prove me wrong, because you know what? I'm teachable. And if you come back and say, look, you know what? I don't think you're right about this. Have you considered this? Have you seen this? I'll take a look at it. I promise you. And if I'm wrong about something, I'll come back and apologize. That is the truth. So now let's go on. Let's get a little bit of humor after that, because that is extremely upsetting. Now, remember the picture of Comey looking up at the giant redwoods? Well, I found this online somewhere, and I don't know why, but it made me giggle. And here is Comey looking up at a giant Trump, who is actually pretty symbolic of a giant redwood. I I think there's a lot of symbolism in this picture that probably people aren't picking up on. It is humorous. Absolutely, it's humorous. But it's also the fact that Comey is now looking straight up into his crotch, going, wow. Yeah, so anyway, let's move on now. I know, I shouldn't have went there, but I did. I'm human. All right, now, this from POTUS schedule. POTUS says if sanctuary cities want illegal aliens due to open borders, we can give them an unlimited supply. He says it'll put their claim of open arms to the test. POTUS also confirming he will be sending more troops to the border soon. And I'm sure, unless you've been under a rock, you will find both the internet and the news stations are exploding over this, all upset because Trump said that he was going to send the immigrants to the sanctuary cities. But why are they upset? They're the ones that wanted them. I don't know. I don't get it. Do you? Actually, I do get it. They're hypocrites. All right, let's move on now. Let's move to here. This one first. Got some interesting stuff tonight. And this from Deplorable Pet Lover. Well, any pet lover's a friend of mine. From the mouth of Rod Rosenstein, if there's anything wrong in the FISA application, the person who swore it was true is going to face consequences. Let the consequences begin. Donald Trump, time to declassify the FISA warrant application. Now, this surprised me a little bit, and in a good way, but let's listen.
There's a lot of talk about FISA applications, and many people that I see talking about it seem not to recognize what a FISA application. A FISA application is actually a warrant, just like a search warrant. In order to get a FISA search warrant, you need an affidavit signed by a career federal law enforcement officer who swears that the information in the affidavit is true and correct to the best of his knowledge and belief. And that's the way we operate. And if it's wrong, sometimes it is, if you find out there's anything incorrect in there, that person is going to face consequences.
So there you go. I wouldn't have expected to hear that from Rod Rosenstein, but there you go. All right, and let's go back. And let's look at this, which I think is very interesting, obviously from the Chans. Now, it says, sometimes Q is a year early on the news. Okay, the 12th of April, 2018. Twitter down, injection good, Q. Now, what's today? The 12th of April, 2019. This at 11:31. Let me see, let me check. I had to make sure that it was the 12th because I'm telling you, this has been one of those days for me that's just, I've just been, you ever have just a day where you just can't get yourself woken up? I've been drinking coffee, I've been doing everything. I dressed for the gym and everything, and then I went, no, I can't do it. Just one of those days, so I had to just check. Anyway, here we go. That from a year ago, April 12th, and a year later, today at 11:31 a.m. Whoops, it looks like Twitter's servers were down for a bit. They must have gone to lunch early and didn't tell anyone. But don't fret, we're back now. Interesting. And a year ago, Twitter down, injection good, Q. Interesting. What does it mean? I don't know. Injection good. Did they, I don't know. What do you think? I'm almost hesitant to say what I think because it sounds ridiculous. So maybe you guys are a little braver than I and can put it in the comments below. I promise I won't laugh at anybody. Actually, I do laugh at you guys quite a bit. Sorry, but I do. But not for negative reasons at all. Some of you just plain make me laugh out loud. And I read your comments and I think, my gosh, I have, for some reason, this channel has drawn some extremely funny people. So, so I do laugh at you. I lied. I do laugh at you, but I don't laugh at you over comments that you make or whatever. That's, no. I think we should consider everything, right? All right. Now, let's listen to this. Just in case you thought that Comey had, was a little bit, I've always thought that he had the IQ roughly equal to asparagus, but it seems like I've been giving him too much credit. So let's listen. Well, let's try to listen. Alrighty, hang on here.
To Barr's comments, I really don't know what he's talking about when he talks about spying on the campaign. It's concerning because the FBI and the Department of Justice conduct court-ordered electronic surveillance. I have never thought of that as spying.
Wait a minute. Court-ordered surveillance. Court-ordered electronic surveillance. I've never thought of that as spying. No, and not only that, but he lied because they were spying before they even had the FISA warrant. Liar. He's a leaky liar. That's what he is. And let's go back because I love this comment. This made me laugh. Tom Elliott, James Comey. I've never thought of electronic surveillance as spying. And We Who Wait says, I honestly didn't realize my knees were part of my legs. Yeah. Really, I just can't even believe that came out of his mouth. Honest, I can't. Like, you have to be so desperate and you have to believe people are so stupid. Honestly, I would be embarrassed to say something like that. I honestly would. Even if I had been caught doing something and was trying to get myself out of trouble, I would be embarrassed to come up with arguments like that because I would think, okay, everybody's going to look at me and think that I'm like a chowderhead or something. What is a chowderhead and where did that even come from? I don't know what a chowderhead is. I don't even know where that came from. Well, if anybody knows what a chowderhead is, see, I'm such a chowderhead that I don't even know what it is. Okay, well, I'm going to have to look it up. Okay, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. I have to know. Chowderhead. I don't even know where that came from. Chowderhead. It's probably something really horrible. A stupid person. Okay, there you go. I used it correctly. I'm all right now. I'm all right. All of a sudden I'm thinking, chowderhead, where did that come from? I haven't used that term. I don't even remember ever using that term. Well, there's a first for everything. And it certainly applies to him. Okay. I do love me some clam chowder soup, though. Clams are happy, though. They're not stupid. Clams are always happy. You always hear happy as a clam. So I don't know why they call them chowderheads, because that should mean a happy person, don't you think? Clam chowder, chowderhead. I don't know. All right, let's look at this now. Comey, I've never thought of electronic spy. Hang on here. Comey, we just looked at this. I never thought of electronic surveillance as spying. And then down here, Comey, I don't really know what he's talking about when he talks about spying on the campaign. And then here, May 22nd, 2018, Clapper says Trump should be happy his campaign was being spied on. Yeah, should be happy. We were spying on, a term I don't particularly like, on what the Russians were doing, trying to understand were the Russians infiltrating, trying to gain access, trying to gain leverage. No, they weren't. They knew there was nothing to do with the Russians. They made all this up. I mean, these people lie. It's wonder that their pants just don't burst into flames. Seriously. But you know what? Do you know what? Seriously, these people are so stupid that if their pants burst into flame, they wouldn't blame it on being liars. They'd say, oh, it's global warming, man. That's what they do. You and I know it. All right, let's listen to Clapper. Sorry, but I don't know. This guy, an odd little man.
But the FBI started to look into Trump's ties to Russia in the summer of 2016. And Trump tweeted that this spying that he claims is spying. Other people say it's a whistleblower or an informant. He says that spying is bigger than Watergate. So I ask you, was the FBI spying on Trump's campaign?
No, they were not. They were spying on a term I don't particularly like, but on what the Russians were doing, trying to understand, were the Russians infiltrating, trying to gain access, trying to gain leverage and influence.
So why doesn't
which
he
is
like
what they do?
So why doesn't he like that? He should be happy that
Well, he should be.
Right.
I mean, Russia, and this is one of the reasons I wrote my book, was the threat that Russia poses because they are bent on undermining our system. And that's what they did and had a lot of success during the course of the election.
Oh, they had a lot of success during the course of the election. Well, not according to Mueller. Mueller disproved it. Yeah. Unbelievable, these people. Like, unbelievable. And Joy, how do you pronounce her last name? Bahar, or whatever her last name is. She is another piece of work. I mean, these people cannot. I just can't believe these people are stupid. I think they're evil. Really. And they lie with no conscience whatsoever. We were spying. I mean, I don't like to use that term, but we were spying on the Russians. Yeah, and they really did undermine the whole process during the election. See how he's getting just lies. A total injection of lies. That's what it is. I'm telling you, pants on fire. It's going to happen. But, yeah. And you know what? If their pants did catch on fire, I don't think even most people would even spit and try and put it out. They'd blame it on global warming, but I don't think anybody would bother to, put the fire out. I just don't know. All right, let's go back. Well, I would actually. They're human beings. They're evil, but they're evil human beings. All right. Okay. So, yeah, Clapper thinks Trump should be happy they spied on him. Yeah. That's like saying to somebody that's just been mugged, you ought to be happy you were mugged. Yeah, you ought to be happy we robbed you. You ought to be happy we shot you. Unbelievable. Alrighty, Dan Bongino. The media cover-up of the Spygate scandal will, in time, become as big of a scandal as the Obama administration's illicit political spying operation. That's why they're panicking today and clawing at their own faces in a desperate attempt to make this devastating story go away. And that's what they're doing. But the story's not going away. They are trying to shut up every alternative media source they can. They are trying to, why they would try to target and censor someone like myself, I don't know. It's not like I've got, 500,000 listeners, but they are. That's how scared they are. They, there'll be people that subscribe and then they'll unsubscribe them. There'll be people that try to click on the like and it will be unliked. And goodness knows whatever. They're messing with my views. They're messing with all sorts. And I'm not alone. I'm not saying, that I'm just the only one. I'm not. They're doing it to just about anyone that has a message that's contrary to their narrative. And they're doing it on all social media platforms. And it's not getting better. It's getting worse. Much worse. So anyway, and that's why, it's nice if you're able to like it, because people have said, I tried like 6 times to click that like button, it wouldn't let me. If you're able to like it, the fact they don't want the likes is the more likes a video has, the more times that it's shared. So they're trying to reduce the likes so that it reduces the number of people that actually get exposed to it. right? And so sometimes, if you can just share it directly, that's great. Sometimes they'll shadow ban it anyway and not allow you to share it. So it's really interesting how they're frightened of little people like me, who really, it boggles my mind. I mean, this is big stuff. Like when they start becoming frightened about what little people like me say, you know that we're in a big time war for the hearts and minds of people. Absolutely we are. All right. President Obama's, this from President Trump, President Obama's top White House lawyer, Gregory B. Craig, was indicted yesterday on very serious charges. This is a really big story, but the fake news New York Times didn't even put it on page 1, rather page 16. Not much better. Oh, and the Washington Post was not much better. Tiny page 1. They put it on page 1, but it was teeny, teeny, tiny. Corrupt news. You said it. That's what it is. And I have something else here about that as well. Hang on, if I can find it, because I remembered seeing it. Here it is. Hang on, right here. This from D. Alex on Twitter. Wow, Obama White House counsel Gregory Craig charged with concealing information to feds. First indictment against a prominent Democrat stemming from Mueller's Russia probe. DOJ Inspector General Horowitz will drop a report on Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act FISA abuses by June. Yeah, that will be a big kaboom. So let's go back up here and pick up from where we were. May not be able to get to all of this in this. Okay, this is where we left off. And I'm not going to get into this, but I will read it. Comey memos included classified information on human sources, code names, and court-ordered FBI filing. So, yeah, Comey's in big trouble. Big trouble. I'm going to leave that actually because I think I may come back to it in another video. It is important. And Chuck Schumer. Everybody now. Chuck Schumer. What can we say about him? All right. Chuck Schumer says, well, now that Julian Assange has been arrested, I hope he will soon be held to account for his meddling in our elections on behalf of Putin and the Russian government. They're not giving it up. They're not giving it up. Doesn't matter what Mueller found. Doesn't matter that Mueller found that there was no collusion. These people are just going to keep putting Russia out there because they want that in the people's mind for 2020. And 2020 is not that far away, but they want that in people's mind still. But somehow, I don't think it will be by the time that everything is all said and done. Now, I wanted to also include my reply to Chuck Schumer, and this is my reply. Seriously, back away from the crack pipe. No one is buying what you are peddling anymore. You are a habitual liar whose wild claims have been proven false. You are just embarrassing yourself at this point. Ain't that the truth? He is. He's embarrassing himself. You know, I mean, there's so many people that know the truth, and yet he just keeps on. Pants on fire, pants on fire. All right, and this, breaking, according to sources, former FBI James Comey would regularly play private phone conversations of then-candidate Donald Trump for President Obama and intelligence officials during 2015 Oval Office briefings, long before the FISA warrants. So, yeah, Clapper, yeah, Brennan, you're all liars. You're liars. Well, he ought to be happy. Trump ought to be happy that we spied on him. I don't like to use that term. Oh, and this. Breaking. House Democrats and 2 Republicans approved bill forcing all schools to let males compete on girls' sports teams. Now, if you are a transgendered male and you want to compete in any female sport in school, you are now, they are not able to ban you. Now, that is a very unfair advantage, and in terms of, if this extends to the Olympics, I mean, it's over, because there won't be any women that win anything, really, except maybe gymnastics and figure skating and things like that. But if, seriously, I mean, think about it. Think about the implications of this. You know, if I was on a girls' team and the other team had some transgendered women that transitioned, well then I'd give up, because I'd be like, well, we might as well go home. We're not winning nothing. You know, we can play for the fun of it, but we're not going to win. All right, now the Democrats' Equality Act would amend the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and require all schools across the country to allow male athletes who identify as transgender girls to compete on female sports teams. Well. Now, I do have a lot more. I'm going to save this one because it's quite long and it does need a little bit of detail. And we are running out of time here. I've been going for a while, but I did want to show you this because I know you will find this very interesting. This from the NSA CSS. Congratulations to NSA's National Cryptologic School Commandant Diane Janosic, who received the Cyber Warrior Woman of the Year Award from the Cybersecurity Association of Maryland. Now, look at the picture that they put on Twitter. She's standing in front of a card, the Queen of, I never play cards. I think that's the Queen of Clubs, isn't it? Or is it the Queen of, I think it's the Queen of Clubs. Again, I apologize, I'm not a card player, but it's the Queen of something. And look at the big Q and look at the one eye symbolism. Interesting. Then we've got an upside down, a triangle here. I don't know. I think that it's sending a message. Personally, why did they choose this to put on their Twitter page? And, you know, as people say, I'm seeing all these people on Twitter now saying, well, you know, Trump's never come right out and said Q's real, so he's not. Well, do you really think if Q wasn't real, do you not think that they'd pick up on this? I'm telling you, I've been in multimedia for so many, I was in multimedia for so many years and graphic design and all that, and I'll tell you right now, stuff like that isn't an accident. You look at stuff like that before it goes out. Really. I'm not kidding. Nothing is by mistake. I know people think, oh, this is on the cover. Well, I'm sure they didn't mean it that way. Oh, yes, they did. Everything. Colors, positioning, everything. It's thought out. They don't put stuff on there for no reason. So, yes, it does have a meaning. And they put a Q here. And this is related to a woman cyber warrior and cryptology. And it's from the NSA, and people say, oh, it's just a coincidence? Are you kidding me? No, it isn't. So I know you guys don't think that way. I'm not saying that and directing that to you guys, but there are people out there saying, oh, that's ridiculous. Well, whatever. And this I put, there was an incident, I guess. I don't know if this has been resolved or what, and I guess it had something to do with somebody lighting themselves on fire on Pennsylvania Avenue. I don't know what the issue was at all, but there was an alert sent out by the U.S. Secret Service. Secret Service personnel are responding to a police medical incident on Pennsylvania Avenue along the White House North fence line. And I later found out, actually right below here, we have someone apparently set himself on fire in front of the White House just now. I was coming out of the West Wing and the Secret Service isn't letting anyone out onto Pennsylvania Avenue. They say there are also suspicious packages. Now, I haven't had any updates from that, but if you have, put it in the comments below. I really hope that they were able to save this person, because I really think there has to be some sort of mental illness for somebody to do such a thing to themselves, and I think it's horrible. I hope that they were saved and that they are in a hospital at this time. All right, and this from quite a while ago, obviously before the election. This didn't age very well. Just wanted to show it to you, just for a little bit of humor. Didn't age well at all. Huffington Post. Our pollster polls model gives Hillary Clinton a 98.1% chance of winning the presidency. Elections, HuffingtonPost.com 2016 forecast. Clinton, 98.1. Trump, 1.6. That didn't age well. Didn't age well at all. So, all right. I think that is, I'm going to quit there for tonight. We've covered quite a bit, actually, and I've got more to cover, which I will do at a later date. It's getting late tonight, but I will be keeping, I always want to say I'm going to keep my eye out for Q posts, but I don't want to keep my eye out because that's painful, and I don't want to keep my eyes peeled because that would hurt too. So I will keep looking and anticipating Q posts, and will report them when they appear. Other than that, we have lots of Q-related news. So anyway, that's it for tonight. Thank you guys. Thank you again. Check out the, if you haven't already, the Q mugs and whatever, there's Q t-shirts. I'm trying to get some more designed as well. The link is in the description box beneath the video. And also thank you to my Patreon subscribers, and thank you to those who buy me coffee. I appreciate it, and it goes to help the channel. And so thank you so much. I will talk to you guys later. I hope you have a good night. I hope you sleep well, stay safe, and always seek truth, because deception bites.